Hey, welcome, kings and queens. Y'all, I am so behind on getting commentary out to you. Listen, it is not easy because real life happens, especially when you're not a full content creator, a full YouTube content creator. So I find myself juggling a lot of things, but thank you for your patience. Today, we are talking the Real Housewives of New Jersey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine episodes 3 and episode 4. Listen, Teresa and Melissa are duking it out. And I kind of feel like, you know what? Teresa's trying her best. She's trying her best to be kind, to extend the olive branch compared to the way she could have been and she has been in the past. I'm sick of the Gorgas. I am sick and tired of the Gorgas. I feel like the Gorgas can talk about other people's business, but can't. But lo and behold, if somebody talks about them and all of the fraudulent and the alleged theft that Joe has done, but they don't want to talk about that. Okay. Allegedly taking money from folks without paying them. Let's talk about that, Melissa. Let's talk about that, Joe, because I am tired of you utilizing your sister as your storyline in order to not focus on your life, your children, your failed businesses, the reason why you had to downsize your house, all of that good stuff that we could be capturing right now. But Bravo producers, that's on you because you have allowed them to skate by for years. So I want to talk about everything that's been going on between the Gorgas and Teresa, as well as Marge. Messy Marge. Okay. I'm over this little man by the name of Joe Gorga. I'm really over it. I need him to bring something else besides his sensitive emotions. Let's talk about it, y'all. I'm drained watching Melissa and Joe. I really am. But for those of you who are just tuned in, or if you're new to the channel, welcome to the palace. I am Queen Sheba. I cover a variety of hot topics specific to reality television. But most importantly, I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience. Okay, so let's start with Teresa and Melissa. They are still arguing about support or lack thereof. It's continued on from episode 3 and it's kind of meandered its way into episode 4. It's nothing new. They've done this year after year after year. And they've gone back and forth, right? Like ping pong. It's the Gorgas time this year because they're really centered on it. And it all centers around Teresa's wedding, which I've said before, Teresa has to pay. Y'all, the bride has to pay for the head counts. Melissa, why do you feel like your mom and your sisters and your family should be at Teresa's wedding because they did something nice for Joe's parents, who happens to be Teresa's parents? That is not Teresa's job. If I don't want your folks at my wedding, they're not coming. And I think it's pretty shitty to utilize someone's death or after death to say, we were there for your parents. Just be there. Because you have a bad habit of doing that, Melissa, of throwing up everything you've done. We were there for your parents. They're gone now. Melissa, Joe, can you allow these people to rest in peace? Because let's back it up some seasons. Joe, you were fighting with your own father. Okay? You're about to have a fight with your own father at the christening. You've been a ticking time bomb by way of emotional. You've had some emotional problems, Joe, and or challenges for many, many years. So I need you and Melissa to let this bone go. You are like a dog on a bone with this. I need you to let it go. If Teresa doesn't want Melissa's family there, then so be it. Okay? So episode 3, Melissa and Teresa hug it out. But let's see how long this is going to last, child, because you know how they do. And here's what I need from you, Melissa. Teresa asked you in front of everybody at Danielle's cookout if you wanted to be a bridesmaid. She said, if it's that important to you, do you want to be a bridesmaid? Because if so, I will make it happen. And you said no. You said no. You said that you're fine without being one. That's fair. Okay, that's fair on Teresa's end. That's fair on your end. But listen to me, Melissa. I don't want to hear another word about this. I don't want to hear another word. Melissa and Joe, you got to let it go. Teresa doesn't owe these folks not one thing. I'm sorry, I hate to say this. I cannot stand the Gorga duo. I don't mind people fighting and duking it out verbally on reality television. This is when I have a problem. I have a problem when the chips are not on your side and you want to cry wolf and cry foul when you're losing. That's what I don't like. And that's what I feel like is happening between Melissa, Joe, and Teresa. Okay, so that's my take on this. I really want to say a lot more about Joe, considering the notes that I have here. But I will say this. Mind your muscles, Joe Gorga. Mind your muscles. Okay? You're really being a crybaby about this. And then you charge up Louis about why your wife's family is not invited to Teresa's wedding. I'm going to really need Joe Gorga to man up this year outside of crying and getting emotional and throwing temper tantrums. And I know some of y'all don't like my content regarding Teresa. And you feel like, oh, you're taking her side. And she's been bad over the years. She has been. But I wasn't covering Real Housewives of New Jersey then. I'm picking up where they are today. I live in the moment, and you should too. So we can only cover what's happening in the now, okay? Stay with me, people. I feel like Joe Gorga has become accustomed to bullying folks. And I love the way that Louis was not having it, okay? Louis checked him like a checkered flag and reminded him, hold on now, I'm a man too. And what you're not going to do is, so Louis, very good job of standing your ground and holding your point. Listen, let's talk Dolores and her man. Dolores, I like this guy for you in this moment. I don't know much about him, but I love how this man is showing up for you. And that's what a man is supposed to do. So Frank and Paul, Frank is Dolores' ex-husband. Paul is the man that Dolores is currently dating. So Frank and Paul have a scene at Dolores' home. Listen, I cannot stand when men try to pull power plays against women for no reason at all. And I feel like that's what Frank tried to do. But Paul checked his ass at the gate. Frank, you do not measure up, sir, when it comes to Paul. I had no idea what you were made of until they gave us something to put you next to by way of Dolores dating another man. And I think Frank, it's something about Frank that's tricky because I think he managed to run that doctor out of Dolores' life, but Paul ain't having it. Okay. Frank, you've been slacking on Dolores for years and she's never had anything to measure you up against. And it's a brand new day because there's a new sheriff in town and his name is Paul. So Frank invites Paul to a guy's night, right? And Frank looks at Dolores Frank invites Paul to a guy's night out. It's like, hey, dude, why don't we do something on Tuesday? It's guy's night. And then Paul, the new guy, looks at Dolores. Okay, so in this moment, Frank tries to play this whack game of saying, what's the matter? You have to ask her for permission? Listen, I can only imagine the hell he put Dolores through in their younger days when they were married. Paul checked his ass and said, no, I'm looking at her to make sure she and I don't have plans for Tuesday. So he basically schooled you, Frank, on national television, letting you know that before I commit to you, I'm committed to my woman and I'm making sure she didn't have anything on the calendar for us, like dinner, a night out. You don't take priority in this relationship. And it's something about that. I'm going to start paying a little bit more attention to that because Frank, I kind of feel like there's something about you that has this divide and conquer spirit. You want Dolores to prioritize you, and you came across like you wanted Paul to prioritize your invitation in a moment. And then when he didn't, you tried to play it up like Dolores. He had to ask Dolores for permission. Well, guess what? He checked your balls and he let you know, don't come at me like that. I respect my woman, which tells me, Frank, that you may not have had a lot of respect for Dolores as a woman, both past and present, which is why you tend to cross a lot of boundaries. And the more Frank talks, the better I can see him. I did not have this bird's eye view of Frank prior to this season and this episode, because I feel like Bravo did a really good job of making him look like an excellent co-parent, an excellent ex-husband. But honey, the mask has come off. I can see Frank now. I can see clearly now. Yes. Paul called him out. He really did. He was like, what's up with your Mel meter? And when I say Mel meter, I mean M-A-L-E, your Mel meter. And he said, while we're talking, I kind of have an issue with you, because if you have family dynamics in place, and if you knew that your woman was going to be dating a new man, then you failed the sniff test. Why would you send Dolores to be your spokesperson? Why would you expect Dolores, a woman, to be your mouthpiece regarding she and your relationship? How come you didn't come to me as a man? And you can always tell when you have a real man in the room, honey. Oh, you can always tell when you have a real man in the room, because the imposters, they must succumb to the real masculine energy. Melissa and Jackie. Margaret is one messy broad. Margaret, messy Margaret. So Margaret finds a way to go in on Jennifer. Margaret, you really are getting too old for this. Okay, you're getting way too old to be this messy and this sloppy. You are the oldest one in the group, Margaret. I need you to do better. I'm really loving Gia as a young woman, y'all. I know I'm transitioning in and out of my review, but I'm really loving Gia and the young woman that she has become, as well as Gabriella. Gia's morphing into a beautiful young woman who really exemplifies family over everything. Okay? Not all that fake stuff that Melissa and Joe are putting out there. Gia has every right, in my opinion, to defend her father and her family. Have your mother's back, Gia. I know that's right. Okay? Stand for your family. You and your sister. And Melissa, y'all, I cannot stand Melissa. I cannot stand this lady. She is so fake, in my opinion. But let me get back. Let me back up. Melissa really needs to go. I do not see a place from her other than being a disruptor of this family and their healing. Okay. At this point, I see no value. I really don't, with having her and Joe Gorga on the show, other than the fact that Andy Cohen likes Joe on the show. Teresa has a party. Everything looks good. The drinks and the food are flowing. Jennifer brings this cool family tree gift. It was a very thoughtful gesture. Here go Margaret Trout mouth messy ass. She could not resist the urge to gossip at such a beautiful event. Just enjoy yourself. Know where you are and act like you've been somewhere, Margaret. You too old for this. You too old. You are too old to be trying to find a moment. But yet she found one. And it was so funny because as they were going back and forth, Jennifer and Margaret, one thing I noticed is that both Jennifer and Margaret should probably sit this one out. Jennifer's in a boot and Margaret is in a cast. Absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. So if we go back real quick, Jennifer and Ben, I'm not going to talk much about them, but I will say this. Where's the love? Where is the love? Jennifer, your husband is telling you correctly. You do have issues. You have lots of them. And each year they continue to escalate. Jennifer, I really want to see you do well on this show. I love the way you bring it, honey, but I need you to establish a little bit of balance. I need you to go and get some help about what's really eating you up, because Bill and that house won't be able to fix you, okay? Let me break it down. I feel like Jennifer is emasculating Bill because she doesn't respect him, okay? I feel like she really doesn't respect her husband, and maybe, just maybe, deep down inside, you know who he truly is. So instead of leaving him, she's punishing him. And if you know what I mean when I say she knows who he truly is, I'm not going to say anything, but if you go back and watch, you may understand where I'm coming from. He doesn't want her, in my opinion. And I feel like he's beginning to resent her. It's a never-ending story with you, Jennifer, when it comes to Bill. It's almost like death by small paper cuts. He's going to end up resenting you really quickly and really fast if you don't back off, Jennifer. I feel like nobody can win against Jennifer when she's on her roll and she's having a temper tantrum. No one can win unless they completely agree with her and co-sign all of her wrong behavior. Jennifer's a hothead, and I really feel like she's bullying her husband. And she wants him to be a hothead, but that's not who he is. That's not who you married, Jennifer. So either you accept that man as he is, or you let him go. All right, I want to say this really quick because it's, I really want to say this because I really feel this. With the exception of Joe Gorga, I really enjoy the Jersey guys. I enjoy the husbands. They were lighthearted. I feel like they have great group dynamics. And they don't get involved or become too involved in the women's mess. I love it. Now, really quick, let's cover the last part of this that's going to build up to more mess. Melissa walks in the party without Joe. She knew exactly what she was doing when she decided to come without her man, but that's okay. Let's get into it. And when she walked in, I kind of feel like she had a stink attitude when she approached Teresa and the rest of the group to speak. Why come? Why come if that's the attitude that you're going to bring? If you're not coming in peace, honey, please don't come at all. It was so awkward to see her pretending to care about Teresa's kids. It was horrible. I wish they would have clipped that out because, I think we can all be a bit sensitive when it comes to the kids. Girl, you should have said hello or completely ignore them because that did not come across well as a doting and a lovely and loving auntie. You felt miserably. And then you walked off and rolled your eyes, girl. We saw that on the camera. I was like, whoa. Those kids have every right to be apprehensive when it comes to you, Melissa. And then to top it all off, this girl has the nerve to try to make herself cry as if she and her husband are the victims. Wrong time, wrong place. I have not seen you cry all year, but you save it and you wait until Teresa's party to decide. You now feel and you now understand what your poor husband is going through. Stop. Girl, save the drama. Stop it. Okay? That was a bit too much at this lady's party. You should have stayed home with your man. It's not okay to go to her party and put on a full display of an emotional immaturity. Stop talking about what you did for those kids in your confessionals. It's in poor taste and it's uncouth. It's unfair to the children because they didn't ask you to do anything. So stop doing that. Stop rubbing it in their faces that you were there for them when their parents were incarcerated. Okay? Let me tell you how I know Melissa is fake. Because on one hand, she goes to the bathroom to cry because she's so upset over her dear husband and him not being there. Sweetheart, he chose to not be there. The invitation was extended to him. He's a grown ass man. It's not like Teresa invited you and didn't invite him. He chose to be there. He chose to opt out, just like he chose to opt out of attending her wedding, to make a statement, to be a drama queen. And like Teresa said, he's a BB, a bitch boy. Okay? He chose that. So if he's feeling some kind of way, he put himself in that emotional state. And let's really get down to it. You go to the bathroom and you cry, but then you come right back out and decide to be messy. You're stirring the pot between Danielle and Jackie. Let me say this. Let me go off. Let me veer off for a second. I think Jackie has taken up issue with Danielle because I think Danielle may be Evan's type. And I think Jackie has a problem that there's a new blonde in town, if you get my drift. Okay? Now let me get back on course. But yeah, Melissa, you should have kept your mouth closed. You were being really, really messy. Now, I want to shift to Teresa's speech. Teresa, you got to do better. Now, girl, I'm trying to go to bat for you. You got to do a little bit better. Teresa kind of messed it up, y'all, with the chosen family comment. Okay, I was like, oh, no, Teresa, no. That did not come off right at all. So she could have done better. She could have chosen a better word. But Teresa is not the most astute and intellectual woman in reality television either. So I don't expect much from Teresa. But what we're not going to do is pretend that Teresa is Joe Gorgas' mother and that she's responsible for his emotional well-being. Joe Gorga is a grown man who made the intentional decision to not show up that night. Teresa does not have to alter her thought process or her words, y'all, so that Joe Gorga is okay emotionally from afar. His wife can take care of him. That's Melissa's responsibility, not Teresa's. You get my drift?